My new book, Pillars for Life, A Guide to Spiritual Ethics and Practice, is now out and available for you to read and purchase. You can check out our website, willowhealing.org, to find a link, or you can find it on Amazon. We look forward to getting your feedback, and if you love it, please leave a review and share with your friends. Now it's time for the show. Welcome to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We are so excited to have you joining us on this journey where we explore different ways to empower your soul, whether it's healing in your kitchen or all the way up in the corporate world. Come with us as we look into different ways to heal your mind, body, and soul. Hey everyone, it's Crestani with another episode of Willow Healing Matters, and today I'm joined by the lovely Amara Samata. So she is a transformational guide, a communication strategist, mediator, and the founder of Inner Guidance Institute. She created the Inner Guidance Method for rapid personal clarity, TLR, which stands for Above the Line Relational Intelligence Training, Inner Mirror, a 3-level framework for trust building and conflict resolution, and Golden Request, her 6-step process for healthy negotiation in any relationship. Her signature relationship squared emphasizes double mutual respect, cultivating healthy interdependence, shared growth, and authentic connection in every domain of life. With over a decade of experience and more than 2,000 private sessions, she has trained coaches, therapists, and wellness professionals from 35 plus countries in delivering in-depth accelerated breakthroughs. Her programs support founders, conscious couples, and purpose-driven leaders and seekers in resolving conflict, building trust, and creating a culture of clear, honest communication that strengthens connection, builds collaborative teams, and supports aligned growth personally, professionally, and spiritually. So a big welcome to the show, Amara, and thank you so much for spending your time with me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on your show.
And I love all these different aspects of relationship building that you work on, including this relationship squared.
Yeah.
So how did all these programs come to life to Amara? So what was kind of your inspiration and what was the evolution of that?
Wow. So, yeah, all of this work was, originally came from, of course, my own journey and wanting to really understand myself and ultimately as much as I possibly could, the root cause of suffering and how to get out of it. And so that led to me meeting different teachers and working with different people that eventually came to this tipping point when I was living in Singapore, and I was going through kind of my own kind of biggest breakdown in my life, which was the breakdown of my marriage. And so, as I like to say, we learn from inspiration or desperation, and depending on what you prioritize. But at that time, I was definitely in that desperate phase, and so I really called to the universe, as we say, to please help me, send me someone that can help me break through and understand and really kind of take me. So I ended up talking to some people, and that was in my meditation group, and I had done yoga and meditation for years and years, and I saw a meditation teacher, I saw a somatic healer, and then I ended up sponsoring a female Tibetan Buddhist Lama in the Dzogchen tradition. And she lived with me for 2 years and taught me every day advanced practices and teachings of Buddhism. And at the same time, I was actually studying with an energetic somatic healer. So I had this deep theory and kind of deep wisdom through the mind and those frameworks. And then I had this very zero theory, just really, really thrown in the deep end. And I ended up blending both of those together, aspects of both of those, and creating this internal structure that's very heavily based on Tibetan Buddhism, the art of looking at yourself, to know yourself, understand yourself. And out of that, I had some very deep realizations. And it led me to the work that I do today. People came to see me for help, and after a certain tipping point that happened, it just never stopped. People just kept coming. You have to go see Amara. You should go see Amara. And so over a decade of doing this work, I saw the patterns that were happening with people, and I began to create frameworks that really dialed in on a process. So it went from the intuitive to the structured. Of course, I still call on intuitive aspects, but I developed a structure that works every time, all the time, for anyone who wants whatever you want to crack the code on. This is the way to do it, as long as you're willing to be honest with yourself. And sometimes that's the barrier that we have to work through, right? How to let yourself be
100%.
honest.
100%. And also have the courage. I think a lot of people miss that point, that it is courage that makes you be brave enough to actually go, maybe it's going on inside of me, instead of, that victim model and blaming everything else outside of us, because that can be such a powerful mirror to actually look through and work through.
Yeah, absolutely. Finding the courage. And again, that either comes with deep inspiration or typically with a lot of pain and desperation that drives you to say, okay, now I should look at that thing that's been knocking on my door for quite some time.
It's so funny. My coach calls it accidental courage or purposeful courage. But I love that you call it that way too, like inspiration or desperation, because it's so
I
true.
love that. Accidental, or what was the other one?
Purposeful, like
Purposeful. That goes along with another, I say by default or by design. So it's
yes.
either going to default or you're going to design the pathway. Like, which one is it?
Yeah. And sometimes I think it's such a powerful reminder. It's like, do you want to go through the pain that you choose to go through because you want to get to the other side and create your dream or your vision for your life? Or do you want to go through the pain that's brought to you because you're choosing not to step into what you want to do in your life?
Absolutely. Yeah. You're talking about that, the pain of the cost and the pain of not doing
Exactly.
something, not evolving, versus the learning curve pain of doing it. And in my experience with my clients, the pain of not addressing the painful thing is always more painful
Yes.
than the pain of
Yes.
looking at it.
Yes. And I think, Amara, that's such a powerful reminder for anyone listening that, what are you losing not going after your dream, or what are you losing not mending that relationship, or that relationship with yourself as well?
Yeah, absolutely. That cost is, it's really hard and painful. So my job is to help people realize that as quickly as possible and get on with that.
I love that. It's just like, come on, let's go, move on.
Very direct. Very direct. Like, how fast can we step into the thing that you've spent your whole life avoiding?
Yeah.
How quick
Yeah.
can we
But
get there and get on the other side of it and realize that it's not everybody who goes to the other side says, gosh, why didn't I do this sooner?
yeah, but sometimes it's like, I often talk to clients, or even just people generally, because I talk to strangers all the time, and especially people who've been through a painful divorce or been through a painful business. We all have one of those times at least once in our life, whether it's a divorce, whether it's a business breakdown, whether it's something. But everyone's like, especially divorce, when you get to the other side, if you knew how painful it was, maybe you wouldn't have started it. But now you're on the other side, you're like, I would never have not done it, because it's just that contrast, and you just have to go through those steps to get there and get, like you said, get to the other side so you can get to the juicy goodness that's waiting for you over there.
Yeah. And there's always that in the middle, in that liminal space where you think, make it stop, put it all back,
Yes.
retreat,
Yeah.
you put everything back in the box. I was just getting stuff. And that's a hard part that you do need it's helpful to have a coach or a guide or somebody that can take you through that process. And it always reminds me of when I gave birth to my son. I did a fully natural birth, and it's just such a metaphor for so many things. And I had my midwife with me. And right at the moment of crowning is when I said, I can't take it anymore. I want drugs.
It's too late now.
And they were all like, snap out of it. Like, this is the last moment, push. But often they say it's, right when you're about to birth something, you quit. Or it's like, you're so close, and then you gave up. So it's that extra birthing process of whatever you are seeking to embody or build in your life. Often it's that moment where you really need to dig deep within yourself and trust that going to the other side, right?
Yeah. And I like the birthing analogy. I was working with a client doing intuitive healing, and she was adamant she wanted to cancel all her soul contracts. And I was like, are you sure? And so if anyone listening going, what does that mean? It means basically any lessons that you've learned and you've progressed upon, even if you're nearly done, you have to go back to square one. So it's a big thing to ask or a big thing to demand, right? So it's very, anyway, and then the image I got shared from kind of my guides and her guides was a mountain. And she's like at the top of the mountain, but she doesn't know she's nearly at the top of the mountain because she can't see, she's at the summit. And so I'm drawing this picture for her. And I said, you're here. Do you really want to go back down to here and start again? And then she's like, and I was like, well, it's not 100% yes, so it's a no. So let's not do that. Let's find some other things. And then she went to a colleague of mine and had an Akashic reading. And then she goes the same thing. I want to cancel my soul contracts. And then she got shown the same image that I did. And she's like, are you sure? It's like, you're nearly there. And you never know when the next breakthrough is going to happen too sometimes, and that's been a lesson for me too, Amara, is like you plant all these seeds and sometimes you forget you have to let them grow. You don't go digging them up to see if they're growing. You have to just let them keep growing and keep taking steps towards where you want to go.
Yes, concur.
Yeah. And I guess how did your Relationship Squared program come about?
Yeah, so a lot of people coming to me now, my clients, I work with couples and individuals, and oftentimes they're struggling with a relationship. So I focus on 3 relationships: your relationship to yourself, your relationship to others, and your relationship to life itself, that more existential aspect of life. Some people call it purpose, nature, God, whatever you want to throw in that category. And in working with people in relationships and helping them have a healthy relationship, and even what I call a mountaintop relationship, where you're really living at like a high peak masterful level, it requires this 4-part formula. So if you just imagine like a pie chart, in 4 pieces. In a healthy relationship, there's a healthy me and a healthy we. And there are me decisions and we decisions. Many times in relationships, people they don't have a healthy me or we, or too much only me or too much only we. And so what it looks like is if I have a healthy relationship to myself and I understand the needs that only I can meet for myself, maybe like, personal needs and how I exercise and what I eat and, what I say and things like that. So there's me taking care of myself, and then there's me taking care of you. I care for you and I care for me. I support myself and I support you. And let's say then you support yourself and then you support me. But what happens in relationship, often the problems come when somebody's dropped the ball in one of those areas. Either they have abandoned themselves or they've abandoned, so to speak, the other person, or their ability to support or care for the other person. And if you get 2 people doing that, then we have kind of this double disaster that's happening. So I'm looking at supporting them on connecting back with themselves and then supporting them to connect back with each other, because it's not either or. You need some semblance of and so that's relation. And I was explaining this to one of my CEO founder clients, and he looked at me and he said, "Oh, Relationship Squared." I said, "Okay, that's a good way of putting it." So
I love that, because it is.
Yes,
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense now that you've explained it.
It needs some explaining, but yes, it's about where, if you can always find which quadrant is sort of suffering. And then there's deeper into the work, there's the identifying healthy and unhealthy behavior with yourself or with others and how that's impacting. And then I have tools for guiding people into conflict resolution, because that's one of the most difficult things, is resolving conflict and how to move through conflict. And you can't really collaborate well in a family or a business or a partnership of any kind if you can't resolve conflict.
Yes, 100%. 100%. And we're so conditioned to run from it too, right? It's like, oh, this is getting really hard, let's run away, rather than actually have a conversation. And I had, yeah. And it's funny, I had this one week, a couple months ago, and for some reason, all these men were contacting me. It was really weird. And they go, I need help with my relationship. And I was like, all right, well, let me do this reading for you, because it was just an oracle card reading. And I said, have you actually spoken to your other half? They're like, no. It's like, all right, step 1, go have a conversation and actually listen to each other. Like, actually genuinely listen to each other. and take turns listening and hearing each other out. Like you said, that conflict resolution, and aim for a win-win-win, not a I'm going to win and you're going to lose, because that's what our ego wants to do, right? We always have to be right. And that's not going to get us anywhere in life, especially in a relationship.
Yeah, exactly. So the golden request model is the 6 steps that I found that help people negotiate through conflict. And the beautiful thing about it is it strips away all potential manipulation tactics. So it's a very raw and real and self ownership style, but it's extremely effective. It helps you have the conversation you're trying to have in an effective way. So most people say, well, I tried it and it didn't work. I say, well, let's do it the way that works then. And the way that works is going through these 6 steps. And it really, each step builds trust on top of the other. And you can use them as a way to build a healthy culture as well within your family, your
Business, community.
Yeah. And the thing though is it will ask you to pull back your defenses. And so you have to then shift from out of whatever, how those, you have to switch out those protection patterns with new understanding. And you start prioritizing and protecting your growth rather than your defensiveness. And that's going to shift so that you can lean in and have those hard conversations.
Yeah. And it takes you out of that reaction, right? Because, so often when our defenses come up, it's because we're reacting. It's like, no, I've got to be protective and protect my space and protect my kind of thing. And you put your defenses up and no one can get through your defenses. And I remember I was interviewing someone, I think it was Roseanne, anyway, and she was talking about how when those lower chakras are imbalanced, you tend to put up your fences and you put up your defenses, and because those energy centers just want that protection. And when you go into that, it's really hard to step into, let's have a rational decision. So I think it's really powerful that you're like, okay, how do we step out of that? And here's some steps to do that.
Yeah. And there's some inner work to do about listening to yourself and understanding what it is you really want before you have the conversation, and understanding more about yourself a bit, before you enter. But that's why Inner Mirror was also created, is that's a dialogue process that has a framework that teaches people how to listen, and it creates a lot of empathy and understanding. And when I take couples through it, it's a very kind of strict framework on how you speak. And so you're talking essence to essence. You're just talking the pure, actual, summarized essence of what you're trying to say. You don't go, on and on. And in that unpacking, it unpacks very, very quickly to the truth. And then couples will say, inevitably, I finally feel seen and heard, or I never understood that about you, or now I get what you've been trying to say all along. So it's a very, very powerful tool for unlocking the truth. So really the question is, what brings us to want a greater truth versus what you say, wanting to be right? Again, inspiration, desperation, needing help, wanting things to work, things that we care about that drive us to evolve.
Yeah. And I think that's such an important reminder, Amara, that we are here to evolve and we are here to grow. And, because I was married before too. And I still remember someone saying to me, you either grow together or you grow apart. And I thought that was such a powerful thing to remember, because sometimes our relationships aren't meant to keep growing together because we just become different people. And it's when you hold on to those relationships that it can be more detrimental than learning. Maybe I've outgrown that person, and, it might be your partner, but it also might be friends. It might be like a job even that you're in. And sometimes when you have that beautiful program of getting to know yourself so well, that when you get to know yourself at that deeper level, you can go, actually, this isn't an alignment with me anymore, and it's time for me to move on. And how can I do that in a powerful way that's maybe not going to burn everything to the ground in the process?
Yeah. So above the line relating.
Oh, there you go. I love this.
About exactly that. So if we divide it into together and apart, let's take those two polarities. And so when I'm talking with couples, they often say, can you help me get a divorce, or can you help save my marriage? And I say, yes and no. What can happen is I'll guide you to work together so that the goal is to be above the line, and we make a commitment that we're either going to be happy together or happy apart. There is no unhappy together happening, and there's no unhappy apart resentment happening. And I believe that a A divorce, a marriage, anything that involves coming together, a partnership is a we decision, and a divorce is a we decision, not a me decision. And unless you've tried everything to have that we, or you never formed a we, then it's going to be very hard to get that decision with your partner. Or if they're not willing to show up for that, then you have to default to a me decision. But I do everything we can to create a we that then decides what are we going to do and how are we going to evolve. And most of the time, the clients realize that they have a capacity to have that next level relationship together. And they completely thought it was not possible. And so that's one of the beautiful outcomes of the work.
It is. And I love that you said most of the outcomes. And I love that you didn't sugarcoat that too, because it's like sometimes people just aren't meant to be together, and it's funny when you were saying that you're either a we, and that's what kind of happened with my last relation. My first marriage was, we weren't a we. It was always me or him. And and like then I had to take the decision because I'm like, let's go to counseling, let's go do this together. It just kept getting no. So then it's like, well, then you have to take on, exactly like you said, take on that self-empowerment and go, all right, now it's a me decision. And clearly you don't want a we because you've said no to everything that I possibly want to explore to make us a stronger we.
Exactly. Yeah. And it can, that's one of the risks of engagement, is it could end up not being your fantasy of together happy ever after, right?
And dreams change. Dreams change, and who you are changes, and life's ever evolving. Otherwise we'd just be, someone said, if you don't evolve as a soul, you're just one step closer to dying.
Yeah, conscious evolution. I'm very much if people ask me to define, how do I define myself besides a guide, I just say a conscious evolutionist.
So I love that. I love that. And as we start to finish our time together, Amara, I ask the guests that come on the show, if you could heal or change something in the world, what would it be?
Yeah, the thing I would, I guess, sort of whisper into everyone's ears is this knowing that you're already free. It's about understanding your inherent freedom over fear and over things that are blocking you in your life. And if you start to see the world from that lens, somebody asked, what would happen if the whole world realized it was already free? We were already free. And I said, well, all the things that take us into our inspiration and our joy and our bliss and our well-being would naturally take place, and we'd be inspired to do so. And all the things that move us into suffering, we'd let go of.
Yeah.
So I think that would be the misunderstanding that I would see to correct in the world. And from there, all healing would be possible.
Domino effect, right? It's like, that's the image I just saw when you were sharing that.
Yeah. Yeah. Pinch pin. Those.
Exactly. And if people want to come and find you, Amara, or come and work with you, where can they come and connect?
Yeah, for now, just come to my website, amarasamata.com, and you can find different ways to connect with me there, work with me. Depending on when you hear this recording, I'm putting together just more programs for people to be able to work with me. But you can always start there. And I do private coaching for people. They call it that, or kind of transformational guidance. So that's always available. It's not for everyone, obviously, but for some, that's the way to go. And then I'm making other programs for people to join as well,
which is really exciting. And I'll make sure to put all those details in the show notes. And if your programs come out by the time this is released, I'll make sure they're in there as well. So perfect. You're like, done. Promoted before they're real.
Yeah. Great timing.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for sharing your journey, Amara, and also how you've developed these beautiful programs for helping people come back to themselves. I think it's such an important thing to learn how to do, but also how to have powerful relationships and survive conflict. Well, not even survive conflict, thrive through conflict, I want to say.
Yeah, they become the thing that unlocks you to your next level of greatness.
Yes.
Love them and embrace them.
Yes, 100%. Thank you, Amara. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We have so much love and gratitude that you have taken the time out of your day to empower you on your healing journey. The views shared by the person being interviewed might not necessarily reflect that of the host and should be used at your own discernment. trust what resonates for you and follow your heart and soul guidance. If you have any underlying medical conditions or mental health issues, please consult with your healthcare provider before pursuing any of the recommendations. Likewise, you can always contact the person being interviewed to find out more information. This can be found in the show notes. Remember to activate, align, heal, empower, and find love in everything that you do.